The Other Side Media Group and 91X now present The Other Side Radio Show, a program about people who make a difference from all walks of life in Quinte and beyond. And now here are your hosts, Jeremy and Joshua Davis.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to The Other Side Radio Show. I'm Joshua Davis, and glad to be here. Happy New Year in 2020. I'm Jeremy Davis, and joining us behind the mic today, we have a new friend, Damon Shea. Welcome to our show. It's great to have you here today.
Hello, Other Side. This is Damon Shea. I'm here for a bit of an interview and a bit of a chat with my new friends. And we'll be going over a few questions and hoping to bring some awareness about the issues of the housing crisis here in Belleville.
Absolutely. We just met, but it feels like we've known each other for a long time. Now, first of all, if I can start out by asking you, now you grew up in the south side of Montreal, and we were chatting before we went to air, and you said that, you have a different perspective when it comes to that. It just felt different growing up there compared to the Bay of Quinte region. Can you explain, and we'll go from there?
So I lived on the south shore of Montreal for 10 years, for a bit of my grade school, and did all my high school there. And every time I revisit, I can't help but notice just a difference in energy and the vibe of the atmosphere, just an environmental difference. I find every time I go back to Montreal that people have a good pep to their step. Like, people have a high energy level, and they just seem to have this level of pride in what they do. I always have to compare it when I come back to Belleville, or even just Ontario in general.
Well, that's okay. That gives our listeners a bit of a picture of the differences according to your opinion. And I know when Joshua and I have been fortunate enough to travel, not only through Montreal, but recently again when we were in Quebec City. I don't know, I guess you notice maybe a slight difference in their zest for life or something. And maybe it's a cultural difference. Maybe that's what it is. But anyway, what brought you to this part of Ontario to pursue your dream and to live up here amongst the residents of Bay of Quinte? And then we'll go from there, Damien.
It wasn't really for business to come back here, but my family lived around the area, so it felt natural to just come back to the Belleville area. And recently, in the last year or so, I ended up getting the motivation to want to go to school. And I had some business ideas that I wanted to be able to share with people and see if I could start something. I knew that I lacked the connections, and I wanted to see if I could make some connections while I was at school. And I knew that it would give me more credibility, and I'd be able to be taken more seriously in discussions when it came to starting something in the community or just business related. So it was more family that brought me here.
Now, Damien, if I may say this, you're a champion in our books. You play wheelchair basketball and rugby. So how rewarding is that for you?
Yeah, I started wheelchair basketball when I was up in Quebec, and At first, I wanted to get into sledge hockey, but it was a bit too far away, so I started with basketball, and I grew to love it. It was a very important part of my life. I got pretty good at it, and eventually I was able to play at the professional level. I was always very fast in my chair, and I was able to make it look fun. So whenever I was on the court, it just it brought an energy to the people that were watching, and they were able to enjoy it. Like it made it look intense.
Damon, what would you say to other people out there, such as ourselves, or that wants to go for the gusto and fight the good fight and to pursue anything they want in life?
Well, you have to believe in yourself, and it comes down to, it has a lot to do with where you live. I feel people have to engage with each other more. You know, it takes all kinds to make a community, and if people interact and want to improve their community together, that makes it more possible. The more people do together, the more things that you create in your community, it makes more things possible, and, you know, as things improve,
Well, absolutely. You know, we are stronger together. And what Josh jumped right in there with, but that's okay, and he alluded to, is the fact that, like us, you are a young man that just happens to use a wheelchair, although the wheelchair, what we're trying to prove every day of our lives, and also by telling your story, is it doesn't define us. Now, you were born with a disability. I hate even using that word because I along with Josh and everyone else in our family, we focus on abilities and that kind of thing. Maybe you just want to tell us a little bit about your physical situation, just as a learning, tool for our listeners, and we'll go from there, and how you have overcome it so far.
I mean, yeah, I kind of agree with you on the term disability. I mean, I guess there used to be worse words, and it's not the worst word, but it does come down to your abilities and your lifestyle more than you don't let your disability define you. It's what you're doing with your life, and it's what you're able to do. And yeah, you have to find interests, you have to find what you're able to do, what you feel comfortable to do. And you know, you don't always feel comfortable doing things to begin with, but that's part of the process, and you will find that you have more abilities than you might think. So
absolutely. And what I want to get to is the reason why we wanted to have you on today. Further to your remarkable story is, since you have, went through Loyalist, and it is our most recognizable college in this part of Ontario. But one of the issues you're now facing in your life at this very moment is you now don't have a place to live. And so you have been fortunate enough at the moment through the people who have just set up and opened the new Grace Inn shelter to have a place there temporarily. But this goes deeper. There's a lack of affordable, accessible housing in the city of Belleville, and indeed this part of Ontario. And it is it's truly a crisis that's gripping this country, too, I do believe. And so, what is the message that you want to get out to all the officials, all the people in power, to encourage them and to express the need for housing, and with your situation and others in that same situation?
I think it comes down to a lack of foresight. I don't think we should be sitting here passing blame, but there are problems, and it is a concern, and it is a problem that there is a lack of housing to go around, even for the average person. But it's a problem just for the average person to go and find a place right now. That there's just not enough housing. I feel that infrastructure should be more of a priority for those that have the ability to make those decisions, that have the ability to influence, where money's being spent, how we're expanding. We want to grow our population. We want to grow as a city. We want to grow as a province. We want to grow as a country. And I feel that infrastructure is so integral and important for that. You can't just invite people, en masse to live here without having places for them to live.
I definitely get that.
And we need to start actually having, certain housing dedicated, or whether it's renovated, built from scratch. Like, we need housing for disabled people, because I just came out of Loyalist, and there was nowhere to move, so that's why I'm staying at the shelter. It was a lack of foresight on the city's behalf, on the people that are growing the city. There was just nowhere to go to. And for someone that went to school and that wants to stay in the area, to be a part of the community, to offer what he has, and to find his place in the community, and to be a part of the economy, it's discouraging. It's disheartening. And, I think we could do better than that. And it shouldn't have happened. They could be taking steps. There should always be housing for the people that want to live here, that already have lived here. I lived in Belleville before I went to Loyalist, and I was going to stay here after Loyalist. So, we could be doing more. Like, we could be making better policies, better programs. Like, we could do more on the social level.
Well, absolutely. And I think the people in power know this, but the wheels of government turn so slowly. And the thing is, we need to step up the priorities. I want to say very quickly before Josh wants to get in, there's so much to say, we'll have you back, but I do want to say that we were also saying before we went to air that, okay, in your particular case, and we're not laying blame, we're not saying, what places are better or not, but the thing is, you were in a so-called accessible unit when you were going through school, and it wasn't accessible enough. And there's only 4 units on campus currently, according to what we were discussing. And so we've got to address that as well. Any further comment before Josh jumps in here?
A comment on accessibility at Loyalist. They have 4 units that they advertise as accessible, and it's accessible in the sense that you can get in the apartments. I was living on residence, and they have push buttons they have that you can, automatically open the door with, and that's really it. It doesn't go any farther than that. That's the extent of it. I couldn't reach any of the cabinets. The bathroom was so small that you can barely even turn around in the bathroom without clipping the toilet, without clipping the wall, or never mind if we had a basket of cleaning supplies in there, like any home would. You have your cleaning supplies and you have places you put things. There was no real options or shelves to put things, so and the kitchen, it's like just the whole apartment was not really accommodating. And I know there is funding available, and I could have worked with the school to get further accommodations, such as pull-down shelves, special cabinets or shelving at the right height. It wouldn't have taken much, and I knew where to get it, and I knew who to work with. An occupational therapist is instrumental in making those things happen, and I had worked closely with one who was a great occupational therapist for a few years. And with her help, we had navigated the system and found resources that actually were pretty helpful. It's just, things were moving too slowly, and there was a lack of awareness. And the people at the school didn't really know what they were required to do, what they had to do, what they could have done. And it was never really taken as high as it should have been. You can only speak to so many people at the resident staff.
Now, Damon, what do you believe needs to be done when people say by 2025 everything will be grandfathered and everything will be accessible and things will be better for people in wheelchairs? Do you believe that to be true or not, or just paperwork?
Well, that's what I've heard, is the goal is by 2025 to have new businesses become accessible. And, I feel it's about time, but at the same time, it's nice to know that it will finally be accessible. Maybe it should have been a bit earlier, but if they at least get there at some point, it'd be nice to be able to experience that and be able to go more places in the community, just because you're able to. Instead of, if you wanted to go to speak to an engineer, I saw a sign downtown that had engineers that you could go speak to, and I thought to myself, could you actually go there, or are they upstairs? It'd be nice to actually go places, because you're actually able to. I'd like to believe that we will get there. It's, that's 5 years from now, so
It's a long process.
it really comes down, it won't happen overnight. It won't happen that quickly, but as long as they gradually get there and you can see the results, you can see the change, it'll come down to, it has a lot to do with infrastructure. I feel infrastructure is really important in Canada. We should be building things, with quality when you build a new building, because it'll last longer, it looks nicer, and we're a winter nation, so you think it would be good to build quality so that it'll weather the elements. Yeah, I think it's about time we get there, and I think we're able to if we work together, if we come up with good ideas, and if they push them forward.
It doesn't just come down to building things, though, which is a key factor in today's society. But how about when people in wheelchairs travel? Because I'm reminded when on trains and planes and wherever you go, there's always hiccups along the way. Our last Quebec City trip was wonderful, but it took a lot of planning in the making, and there was only 2 seats available per train on the car for 2019, and that is not feasible. It needs to be out there more. There needs to be more accessibility. Wouldn't you agree?
I definitely do agree with you. Canada is not that old of a country, and so we're fortunate enough to be able to learn the mistakes that other countries have made. And we don't have to make the same mistakes as they made, so we can learn from that. And I think we should be more inclusive. I mean, on paper, it looks great. We're multicultural. We're so many different kinds of people that have come together and lived together in this country. And, it should be more than just on paper. It should be in practice, too. You should be able to see that and feel that in the communities. It should reflect in how people talk to each other and in the programs and the activities that they have set up in cities. And it's not just the trains. I don't know about the planes. I've never been on a plane, but my experience with the train, just from here to Kingston, for example, it wasn't negative. But I think it was the same case that there was only 2 seats for chairs. But for me, it was enough because it was only myself. And the buses around here are. I don't have too much negative to say about the transit system in Belleville. Every single bus now has a ramp, so they're able to take on 2 passengers, whether it's strollers or wheelchairs. I mean, sometimes the ramp will break down. I think they could have it where it could be manual and automatic, just in case, there's an electrical glitch. You could make it so you could pull the ramp out. That did happen a few times. I think they could also make the roads. I know just traveling through the town as I do, like I get myself around and get there myself often enough. And the roads and sidewalks, they're pretty old. They have many cracks in them. And it makes for a bumpy ride.
What I want to ask, though, as you were saying, we do have accessible transit here in the city, but the other thing is there always has to be the education factor, because there is sometimes when certain mobility items are not accepted, and in cases like that, and scooters. But what I want to ask, though, Damon, is considering the fact I heard that there is more people with or who identify themselves with some type of disability. Again, I don't like that word, but we'll just put it that way. And so there is a huge voting block of those individuals. And we just saw a federal election where until it was mentioned by legendary man in motion, Rick Hansen, none of the leaders of the parties actually addressed that as one of the key planks. And why is that, in your opinion, that they're afraid to communicate to those people and to the people in general about those issues when we have an aging population and so many people are affected?
That's a very good question, and there's I think a few good points to answer that. Like you said, that we should be more knowledgeable about some of these concerns. I think we should be spreading awareness, participating in discussions, and not even just about disability concerns, but just as a community, as a society, as a country, and even in the whatever province you're in. The more people discuss, the more informed you are. Like you're on more of an even keel with people. You get to share what you think you know, what you've learned, and I think that's such an important part of being in society is going over information. Like times are always changing. We're in a transitional period, time and age wise, where a lot of new things are coming. There's a lot of potential. There could be a lot of improvements, and I mean, especially technology. There are things that are going to improve, and they're on their way. But we kind of do need to be able to keep up with it at the social level. Like it's not just about technology; it's about the people. These things are there for the people.
The Other Side Radio Show is a production of the Other Side Media Group in association with 91X. Copyright 2020, all rights reserved. Connect on Facebook at The Other Side Media Group, Instagram at Jeremy Tyler Davis, or on YouTube at Jeremy T. Davis, Belleville, Ontario for on-demand episodes and more. Tune in next time for another great episode of The Other Side Radio Show.